if you're not familiar with this jacket, this is the Patagonia AlpLoft down Parka. It is the replacement for the grade 7. Now, this happened a couple months ago. It was probably in November or October of 2022 is when they made the switch. Maybe a little bit earlier, they discontinued the grade 7. Either way, this has been out for a couple months, and now I've used it for one entire season of ice climbing. And I kind of thought I would update my thoughts on it, because the last time I talked about this jacket, it was more just like a first impression, because I just received it. It was pretty early on. So yes, I have now a whole season of use on it, with an asterisk. I haven't used it a whole lot because it is a big parka and there's only so many uses you can use it for. But I figured, yeah, I would just get into it. So overall, this parka is definitely warm. It is the warmest jacket I own, rightfully so, because it is stuffed with down, and with that much down, it does make it a super warm jacket. A big part of this parka, what makes it different from the grade 7, is the grade 7 had glued baffles in the core, but it had traditional baffles in the arms. I think the old one had glued baffles all the way, but the most recent version of the grade 7 had stitched baffles in the arms and glued baffles in the chest. Now, at the time, that was super great because it meant that you could cut down on the amount of punctures through the fabric, and you'd get less down leak, but you'd also get better wind resistance, because as soon as you start puncturing holes through the fabric, you don't jeopardize, but you have more ways for air to get in. Not that it's like this super wide hole, but it does air, you can feel it in very windy days. Whereas this, with the AlpLoft, there is no stitching on any of the baffles, which that is super awesome, because now you have a system that it will keep the down from leaking. There's no stitches through, and you don't have glue to potentially fail. That's a great thing, because whenever I was looking at the grade 7, I kind of had that worry that, what if the glued baffles fail? Because a glue can only last so long. Generally, when you expose it to like very high UV environments for a long time, it can fail. Not that I would have any doubt that Patagonia would make a faulty thing, because they make really good things. But I did have that kind of concern, whereas this jacket now does away with that. There's no concern you need to have with the AlpLoft, because it's all this newer technology. Basically, the baffles are like folded inside. So if you have a tube here and a tube here, the baffles that you see right here are kind of like pressed together and they're offset a little bit. It's super awesome. I'll try to find a graphic on what it actually looks like. But yeah, it's a super ingenious design, because not only does it protect against the wind, but it does also protect against moisture getting in as well. So overall, it's a very smart design. And yeah, so that was a big step with the AlpLoft, is changing the whole thing to these no stitched baffles. Another thing that they did with it, which, I mean, they did make this a unisex fit. That was the same thing as the grade 7, so there wasn't that much change there. They kept to where it has these 2 chest pockets, what the grade 7 had, 2 hand pockets. They have drop-in pockets on the inside. And overall, it was a more modern material grade 7 is what you could look at it. I do know that early on, people were kind of worried about how the jacket would be for warmth, because it showed that it had, I think, less total insulation than the grade 7. I remember looking on forums and people were pretty concerned that it wouldn't be as warm. What I can kind of say to that is it really doesn't matter. You might see that there's like a difference in like 20 grams or maybe 15 grams of insulation difference, but what you have to kind of realize is they're also dealing with a different system now with the baffling, and that system with the baffling should make up the difference in like heat loss. So you're going to be gaining not exactly more warmth, but you're going to be hitting at around the same levels as the grade 7. So I would never look at the AlpLoft as a jacket that's less than the grade 7, I would just put it as dead even. Sure, it might have like a few grams of insulation difference, but it should perform exactly the same. And I can really say it really does. I had the grade 7 for a little bit of time, and I've had this for obviously way longer. But they did feel right about the same for warmth. I mean, it gets up to a certain point where you just have a big down jacket's a big down jacket. They're going to perform right around the same. And kind of talking more about the performance, it does have a DWR. I'm pretty sure it's PFC free. I'll put that if it is or if it's not. But just know with the Patagonia down jackets, whether it be this one or any of them, they don't have treated down. So you're basically going to be relying on the fabric to do its job with the treatment. If it gets through that, there isn't another safety. Some other companies like Rab and I think North Face as well, they do treat it down. That's great for performance wise, but overall treated down can have some harsher effects with the chemicals put in it. So for Patagonia, it really wasn't worth it to do that. So they just went on with their DWR finish, which I'm pretty sure, like I said, is PFC free. So just knowing you're kind of getting a jacket that has a little bit more thought to it for the environment as well, which isn't a surprise with Patagonia things. But overall, for even performance, like I said, it's just as warm as the grade 7. I've been super warm. We've had a lot of cold days here. We had like a week that it was like -20. So I decided that would be the best time to go out with a jacket and do some testing on it. So it performed really well. I actually did notice that I think that if this did have like traditional sewn in baffles, it wouldn't have performed as good. There were really windy days, and it was pretty nice to have like just like this barrier from your waist up that it's a tank. It's awesome. So yeah, that was really nice. Kind of going back on the shell, I know I'm kind of going back and forth, but I'm pretty sure the shell is a 30 denier shell. Could be 20, but I'm pretty sure it's 30. Again, I'll put it as a confirmation at the bottom whether it is 20 or 30. Either way, the shell is pretty dang rugged. You're not going to really be worrying about puncturing this, and if you do, it's got ripstop, so it's going to rip in a certain way. It's not going to be this long continuous tear. It will rip a certain way, so shouldn't have to worry about that. And if you do happen to rip it, it should be relatively easy to fix. Other than that, there's only one gripe that I have, and it's not like a regular gripe. Normally some people would be like, I wish it were longer. I wish it had bigger pockets. The only gripe I have with it is actually the hood. I noticed that when I was walking with it in that cold weather just to test it out, the hood was kind of weird. It works great if you're using a helmet, which it does totally make sense because this is, at the end of the day, it's a climbing belay parka. I mean, you got dual zippers. You can't get more climbing orientated than that, but the helmet with the hood works really good. But when you're not using a helmet, the hood can be very like spacious, and like especially on a windy day, if you're not wearing a helmet, the wind kind of cuts around, and a good way to fix that is by sucking the draw cord back to make the hood close in. But what I found, because it's got Patagonia's Alpine style hood, so basically what that means is a lot of their pieces have this Alpine style hood, and it's cut in a certain way to where you have more peripheral vision. So the problem with that, if you have an Alpine style hood and you're not wearing a helmet, is when you pull that bungee cord back, it actually pulls the fabric of the hood back, so you even have more of your face exposed. And I remember walking in those cold days, and my cheekbones were just, not the bones itself, but in that area, it was just so cold because I didn't have great coverage. Where something like the DOS Parka, I found was completely the opposite, is that it worked really well without a helmet. But you do have to know that if you're using a helmet, this hood it's one of the best hoods for a helmet. I like it better than the DOS Park, and I like it better than the DOS Lite, but without a helmet, it's not that great. But other than that, I really do like this piece. It is a super niche piece at the end of the day. I think the DOS Parka is probably a better overall piece, just because it's synthetic and it's a little bit longer, which is kind of nice, but kind of not in some ways. But it's just know that this is a super niche piece. But if you're looking for a belay parka that can handle that extreme cold in dry conditions, this is the piece for you. So just thought I would kind of give my thoughts after 1 season of use on the AlpLoft. If you have any questions that I didn't even get to, make sure to leave a comment. And I do have a video where I actually have this and I show it wearing it. I'll link that. I'll either put it in the corner, so I'll link you to that video if you want to see how it fits. But yeah, so that's been the AlpLoft down Parka. And yeah, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.